Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski. Here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, and in this case, Rochester, New York, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville. Before we get started, let's hear a word from Forefathers.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, as we get started here, live from Rochester, New York, St. John Fisher University, the site of Buffalo Bills training camp once again this year, and a lot going on already on day one. We heard from Sean McDermott, heard from Brandon Beane, heard from Josh Allen, heard from Terrell Bernard, and a lot of action taking place on the field. From the outside looking in, AJ, what are your biggest takeaways from today's practice?
Well, to start, and again, thank you everybody for tuning in and taking the time on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Bills football's back, so thank you for tuning in to Right Here, Right Now. Please make sure to like, comment if you have anything to say, subscribe on everything. We greatly appreciate that. But yeah, the Matt Milano kind of development was a big piece for me. Knowing that he's out there in full, I think many people had questions about the severity of his injury and what he was going to be come day one of training camp. And it's awesome to see him out there as a full participant in day one. I think obviously the offense seemed to really shine. 6 different players getting touchdown receptions. Dalton Kincaid makes a couple of highlight plays. Keon Coleman uses his elite body control on the sideline, and I think it's been confirmed that it was a touchdown. I don't think his cleat was touching that white line. So it was a touchdown grab from the second round rookie. So obviously good to see there. And then I think another huge development that I think you kind of were ahead of the beat on this was the Damar Hamlin situation, where he's now with the starters here on day one. That's definitely a significant development. I'm going to kind of hold the momentum on the Cole Bishop train here for a little while, because I think, like you've said this whole time, I think there is an avenue for Bishop to start down the road. But I think with the experience that Hamlin's had in the system, and obviously his play over the course of the voluntary and mandatory offseason programs that the Bills have had this offseason, it's really intriguing to me to see him out there. And again, you go back to before that injury, he was, playing some good football. I wouldn't say consistent football, but he had flashes before obviously everything that occurred. So Hamlin, Kincaid, and Coleman, I think, making splash plays. And then I think I saw some things about Ray Davis really utilizing him out of the backfield as a pass catcher. So a lot of tweaks to the offense. I think obviously a more difficult scheme now that we're in training camp, not those simple stuff, and they're really trying to differentiate their plays and get the offense going and use that everybody eats mentality that you kind of put in your column today.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think it was over 6, actually. I think it was 7 or 8 guys that found the end zone for the Bills today. And leading them all, Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman really put on a show out there on day one of training camp. Kincaid making the catch of the day. Coleman really rivaling the catch of the day with that catch on the sideline that's since been posted to the Bills' social media. It was initially ruled incomplete, but I think upon further review and to confirm Josh Allen's assumptions about the play and his post-practice press availability, he said he was pretty sure that Coleman got in. And if you look at the footage, it is pretty clear that Coleman did get his feet in. But Kincaid also went up to snare a ball out of the air, an overthrown, maybe high pass that he went up and got it where only he could get it. These two are going to be so key for this offense this year. And in day one, already putting on the fireworks in front of a packed crowd here at St. John Fisher. The Bills have to love what they saw from both Kincaid and Coleman here during day one. And there was a lot more to talk about as well. Matt Milano, a full go in practice today, participating in 11-on-11 drills. He did get beat for a touchdown going up against Kincaid over the middle. I think Kincaid just ran a good route and kind of left Milano in the dust, but that's some rust that's going to have to be shaken off by Milano over the course of these next few weeks. I wouldn't read too much into that. It's really nice to see him out there in full capacity, not limited at all, as we saw Tre'Davious White and Von Miller in previous seasons. It seems like everything is trending toward Milano being ready for week 1.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge development for our defense. I think it's huge for Terrell Bernard. I think it's huge for the secondary and the back end, especially those safeties, those new safeties that are going to be out there this year. And it's just really it's an overall great thing for this defense. Probably helps Bobby Babich. Another development today that we'll probably get to is the dynamic with that. I think Babich obviously had the play calling duties today, and McDermott said he'd mix in some in his practice press conference this morning. So that'll be interesting to see that develop. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how Milano kind of develops. If he'll get some vet rest days, how many he'll get. Will they really bring him along? And then, like you mentioned about Kincaid, I mean, just McDermott spoke about it in the pre-press conference about just his demeanor coming off a very successful rookie campaign, one of the best rookie campaigns from a tight end in Bill's history. Probably the best rookie season in Bill's history. Broke Sammy Watkins' reception record to have the most receptions by a Bill as a rookie. So you really see his demeanor coming off the field, and then he goes out there today, makes great grabs. They're already using him on those option routes and stuff that can really utilize his talent and his skill set. So I really think you go into the season and look at this offense, and although it's going to be a versatile attack, and you're going to use different guys in different opportunities with different matchups, I really think, based on what McDermott said today about him pre-practice, then he goes out there and performs like he did. I really think there's an avenue that Dalton Kincaid is the front runner, like we've said all offseason, to really be the guy and the safety valve for the new kind of era of this Bills offense.
And speaking more about that offense, it was really a huge day for the Bills passing game. We mentioned the multitude of players that found the end zone to begin the 7-on-7 period. It was Khalil Shakir, another great catch, albeit really in a one-on-one situation during those 7-on-7 drills, but went up near the sideline, hauled it in, toe-tapping catch, I believe, for a touchdown. I was walking over toward the drill at the time, so I wasn't quite sure if he reached the end zone, but it elicited some hoots and hollers from the crowd and his teammates. So after that injury that Shakir sustained during minicamp, it doesn't seem like he's suffering any lingering effects from that. Also, Curtis Samuel found the end zone on a slant pattern. He was being used all over the field this morning and this afternoon. KJ Hamler found the end zone for a touchdown, went down and made a nice grab, really a diving catch going up against Cole Bishop in the end zone, still during that early 7-on-7 wide receiver versus DB period toward the beginning of team drills. And Ray Davis also caught a swing pass for a touchdown from Shane Buechele. Moving on to the 11-on-11 period, the session began. Allen found Kincaid in the end zone, and then Kincaid flipped it over to Connor McGovern, who had an impressive Gronk spike. It was really the first of many big-time celebrations we saw from both sides of the ball today when big plays were made. And not to say that we didn't see celebrations in the past, but it seemed like every big play today, the team was getting together and celebrating each other and really following the lead of those two new coordinators, Bobby Babich and Joe Brady, who brings so much energy to the practice field day in and day out. Another topic that we'll touch on down the road. But that was Kincaid's first of 2 touchdowns. Tyrell Shavers caught a ball in the end zone, beat Mike Edwards in coverage, someone who a lot of people thought was the for sure starting safety alongside Taylor Rapp. But as you mentioned in the lead up, Damar Hamlin seeing snaps with the ones today, another topic that we'll touch on later. Mitch Trubisky then found Marquez Valdez-Scantling, beat Kaiir Elam in coverage. Kaiir Elam, a huge season for him, and can't read too much into one play, but Valdez-Scantling getting the better of that matchup in that circumstance. Justin Shorter, I'm sure fans will love to hear that. He found the end zone. And Frank Gore Jr., he also got in on the action with a short touchdown reception before that big catch from Coleman. And then later, Kincaid responded with another big catch that I mentioned when he had to go up and grab it. Shakir caught another touchdown. Dawson Knox finding the end zone for 6. So how many players is that I mentioned, AJ? It seems like every receiver or pass catcher on the Bills roster at least in line for a contributing role found the end zone today. It was really the embodiment of that everybody eats mentality that the team has been really beating into the ground throughout this offseason.
Yeah, and it also shines light on, although, Stephon Diggs, and I'm sorry to bring it up here, but I feel like I have to make my point.
It
When
took
you have
one day of training camp for Stephon Diggs to be brought up. Everybody could blame AJ for that. I just want to let it be known.
And on GR this morning, they were talking about it as well. But yeah, Diggs is someone that, obviously demanded a lot of targets. And although it's great for an offense, and I think especially for trying to bring a quarterback to new heights like he did with Josh Allen, I think now that Josh Allen, and I think this has been really reiterated, but it's nice to see on the first day of training camp with Josh Allen now able to kind of carry a team on his own in a sense, which he's been doing for the last few years, even with Stephon Diggs on the field. It's just nice to see that in the first day of training camp when all that's been talked about is, Joe Brady. He's going to utilize all these guys. He had four 1,000-yard guys in Carolina when he was there, and it kind of see it come to fruition in the first day of camp. It just kind of shows that what they've preached is really coming to fortitude, and I think it also shows the more dynamic you can be, and the players that Brandon Beane has on this roster. There was rumors that they wanted to go get Ayuk, and they were going to bring in, a big trade target, try to go after T. Higgins, or go after an Odell Beckham Jr. And you know what they did? They re-signed Shakir. They brought in, or not re-signed Shakir, but kept Shakir obviously on his rookie contract. They brought in Matt Collins and Curtis Samuel, two guys that have had some success. Curtis Samuel a little bit more, but nothing special. And Chase Claypool and another guy, KJ Hamler, like you mentioned. So they really just got a lot of guys that are fighting really for their NFL careers or trying to do something that they've really never done before in their NFL career. Curtis Samuel, he might be asked to be that a consistent, 50, 60 catch guy used all over the field, which, yeah, at times he was asked to be that, but not to this level. So it's cool to see kind of this offense step up. Dalton Kincaid's going to be asked more than he's ever been asked for in his career. Khalil Shakir, same thing. So you're really seeing a group of guys kind of rally around each other. And I think you speak of the energy. There's no distractions this year. It's strictly Bills football. And I think that will help this team moving forward.
Yeah, and I asked Josh Allen during his post-practice press availability if did he know how funny Dalton Kincaid was? Because Kincaid was a little reserved during his rookie year. You didn't really see him spread his wings in terms of sociability and his sense of humor, but you've seen the videos throughout the offseason, the chihuahua, and he was mic'd up during Micah Hyde's celebrity softball game, and he just has a great sense of humor. And to see him gaining that confidence and just becoming a big-time member of this Bills locker room is another factor that's going to play into his ascension at that position. Not only can he produce on the field, he's also someone that players are starting to look to in the locker room as a voice, and I think that's critical for a young player.
Yeah, leadership is huge. There's going to be, like you said, not only Kincaid, but a bunch of players, whether it's Terrell Bernard, who's been asked it multiple times during his press availability this offseason and now going into training camp. You're asking a lot of leadership from these new guys. And I kind of said, like, in my article today with Sean McDermott, like, I kind of led it with to new beginnings, dependent on a kickstart from the youth to kind of get them to that AFC East title. As much as this is going to be about Josh Allen putting on the Superman cape, I think it's going to be just as much as these young guys really becoming something that they've never, become before, whether it's the coordinators or the players. And it gives you a sense of obviously some stress because the uncertainty of can these guys actually come together and do this gives you stress. And I think that's why the Bills, by the national media, have been kind of put on blast a little bit because of the newness and the freshness. But at the same time, when you have a culture that's been kind of developed over the past 7-8 years with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane here in Buffalo, and you still have, Josh Allen, you still have Deion Dawkins, you still have the Matt Milanos of the world and Greg Rousseau. So you still have a lot of returners as well on this team. I think the newness will bring a sense of relief for, even for, again, I'm bringing up Diggs, but even for Diggs, he goes to a whole new locker room with a whole new group of guys. It probably feels great, just like for the Bills on the Bills side of things. They're not, seeing the same faces all the time. So as much as it is a fear in a sense from the media and the fans, I think there's also a sense of if they do put this together and they can attack it any way they want and beat you multiple ways, I think that's even scarier than just going to one guy all the time.
Yeah, for sure. My video is a little bit choppy. I'm out here in the sun now. The sun came out. I think it's heating up my equipment. Is my audio still okay, AJ?
You sound great. You sound like you sound great. You sound like the perfect radio voice right now. So yeah,
Wow.
you're sounding
Wow.
fine.
High praise. High praise.
High praise.
My next question I was going to ask you, you did write about the Sean McDermott press conference today. You're really locked in on that. First order of business for the Batavia Daily News. It's been a tough day for you, AJ. We had 2 newspapers to put together today. We still have to put together the Batavia Daily News, which will kind of collaborate on that effort, but you had to put together the Livingston County News. Are you feeling a bit overwhelmed, or are you handling it okay?
Yeah, definitely a lot, and something that it comes with new territory doing this, and obviously learning how to do some of the putting together the paper just a couple of weeks ago, and still trying to figure out some like tricks and how to get by and try to figure that out along with a couple of other behind the scenes things. So yeah, it's definitely been a day, but it's nice. The day goes by quick, and you get Bills is back, so it obviously makes me a bit happier to see Bills football and just football in general is back. So that definitely helps you get through it when there's stuff to talk about at least, and we're not talking about the same things over and over again.
Yeah, AJ, I went through a little bit of Jedi training in terms of newspaper layout before I went on vacation a few weeks ago. He's done a good job picking it up. It's not like it's brain surgery, but at the same time, there's a lot of intricate elements of it that are tough to figure out. He's done a good job doing so. But the question I was going to ask you is, what were your top takeaways from the McDermott press conference? I saw you tweeted some of them out. Could you just elaborate on that for the people joining us on Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo Football Talk?
Yeah, I think I didn't put this on my takeaway, but I did put it out in a tweet. There was the Kaiir Elam comment about it's kind of a fresh slate for him, and confidence is everything. Whether McDermott said confidence is everything, whether it's at the youth level or now, and he's got a fresh slate with a new positions coach, and I think it's going to be important again to build off that offseason program. I know with the Chase Claypool incident today, where Claypool fell a little bit banged up, so that there's some. And I think I'm not going to quote who called him over, but I think someone spoke to him following that play. That's an interesting development. Also,
he seems to be okay. Saw him after practice. He was interacting with his fellow wide receivers, doing some jogging. I believe going through some post practice throwing. I think he's okay. We'll find out more tomorrow morning.
Right. So there's that. There's the let me pull my tweet up. I already kind of went over the Dalton Kincaid, how he was just really high on Kincaid and what he's been this offseason and what he's really been doing. So that's obviously a huge stepping stone. But one
of my takeaways, coach has already visited Pittsford Dairy. The team arrived yesterday, and he said he wanted to just make sure it was still there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope it's there because it gets resounding reviews every time at this time of year. That's got kind of the big talk, like, oh, if you say Pittsburgh Dairy, Catherine Fitzgerald put it out and was like, oh, we're so back. That's kind of the thing when that's brought up. But I think the fully healthy thing obviously was huge. I think the Von Miller comment that McDermott made, that he's kind of hoping that he can return to that form coming off a second year of injury. That's at least what he's seen in the past and what kind of the doctors and experts have told him. Again, the defensive play calling, I think, was a big thing. What are they going to be? And then one more thing that just popped in my mind was the Josh Allen leadership. Kind of seems more edgy per se, more vocal Josh Allen going into this, and it's really his team now. So I think his leadership, and I know we mentioned Bernard earlier stepping up, Shakir stepping up as a leader, Kincaid stepping up as a leader. I think also Josh Allen needs to take that next step as a leader, hold people accountable, hold himself accountable. And it seems from McDermott's comments this morning that he's done that. So that's always a good sign that the head coach notices that the franchise quarterback of this team is taking initiative and becoming more of a leader and vocal leader at that.
All right, let's have the Damar Hamlin conversation. Mike Edwards returned to the practice field today. He missed OTAs and minicamp. At least he was at the very most limited in his participation during those periods. Dealt with a shoulder injury this offseason, was back out there on the field, but he was working with the second team alongside the rookie Cole Bishop, Damar Hamlin in the starting role with Taylor Rapp. I think it surprised a lot of people. Didn't surprise me as much. I tweeted out to our buddy at Cover One, Aaron Quinn, I think it was yesterday, that Hamlin's a dark horse to receive a starting role to start this season. I think the eventual starter they want to be Cole Bishop, but with Hamlin's experience and how he's performed this offseason, and Brandon Beane spoke on the hunger with which Hamlin has entered this offseason, said he spoke with him just a few weeks ago, and Hamlin just seems hungry to put the past behind him and really get back into full go football mode. And from what I've seen this offseason, he's really putting on a show in the secondary, and the Bills rewarded him with a spot with the starting team on day one of training camp. And a lot of people thinking that he might be cut. I don't think you're going to go from starting with the ones on day one to being cut. So I think Damar Hamlin roster lock at this point.
Yeah, it's obviously like going to like the human condition of this, and he, like, you know, that Damar Hamlin has heard the naysayers like, oh, just end it with this BS about everything that happened, and let's move on from it. And I know, you know, there's been constant hate about him. You know, when he didn't win comeback player of the year, multiple people, Bills fans defended him, saying that he should have won that thing. Like, he came back from almost a near-death experience, and you know, the only way to really, I would say, silence that, and part of probably why he wants to, would be like, okay, I'm going to prove myself on the field that I can come back and be a starting caliber player in this league, despite what I went through. And I think that he's got a chip on his shoulder in a way. Although I know he's thankful for everything and all the stuff he's done for the community. You can really see that with, you know, he comes out during voluntary OTAs, which everyone says doesn't matter. But again, he must have made a big enough impact where they felt like Hamlin deserves this opportunity, at least on day one. We'll see. I really think they're going to try and mix this up just to see what they have, because I really think that competition's still open for that second safety next to Rapp. But to get the start on day one for Damar Hamlin, not only a confidence booster, but it's just good to see based on what he's been through, and that we can kind of get back to talking about football and the football player, because we already know who he is as a person and what he's done for everybody. So let's go back to talking about the football player, Damar Hamlin. And in that case, he's just, you know, really taken the reins and gone with it here ever since the offseason program. And it's really good to see for a guy that I think everyone's rooting for at the end of the day.
Yeah, another player to talk about that will be widely discussed throughout this training camp and preseason process, Von Miller. Really a lot expected of him this year, and now being 2 seasons removed from that injury. And I believe it was McDermott, perhaps it was Beane, who said it, that usually it's the second year after an injury like that where you really start to see the return of the old player. And that's what the Bills are hoping from Von Miller. He was out there uninhibited today during practice, as he has been throughout the offseason and toward the end of last year. It really came on strong during that Chiefs game. Not much to speak of aside from that, but as the pads start to come on here, it'll be really interesting to see Von Miller, and if he still has that burst, still has that bend off the edge, and if he can physically manhandle offensive linemen as he used to do in the past. Didn't see any of those signs from him really last year, and I think this training camp, more so than perhaps ever in Von Miller's career, he has to prove something going into the regular season. Usually for a veteran player of his caliber and his track record, training camp's just about kind of refining the mechanics and shaking the rust off. No, I think for Von Miller, this training camp and this preseason, he needs to produce, and he needs to show not only the fans, but his teammates, his coaches, and the front office that he's capable of being a contributor on this team. Didn't see much from him today, but we'll keep our eye on him as training camp goes along.
Yeah, Anthony Cover One. Shout out Anthony Cover One. He was there today, and he put out a tweet. When I was going over the last couple hours just with camp trying to prepare for this, and I saw that he tweeted that Von Miller got around Spencer Brown for what would have been a sack, and you know, just those little things like that. That's going to be huge for him. Spencer Brown going into his contract season, coming off a really good 2023. To, you know, for his own confidence. And like John Roberts says here in the comments, Von says he has a lot to prove even to himself. I think that's the big thing, because I think Von Miller at this stage in his career has proved to everybody that, and maybe not Bills fans essentially, but for the most part, the NFL world, that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Like, he's already done everything that you really could ask for in an NFL career, and even more. Like, it's the dream NFL career for the most part in terms of football stuff. And he has really just obviously taken some criticism the last couple of years. And so I think there's a lot to prove to himself at this point, because I think at 35 years old, he takes the pay cut to kind of say, hey, I want to earn this and hit my incentives. And because I know I didn't hit any last year, so none of them count against the cap. So they won't count against the cap till next year if he does hit them. I think that not only that is kind of some what's the word I'm trying to look for here? Not only is what Von Miller trying to look for in terms of his sack production and trying to hit those marks, but I think he's a guy that wants again prove to himself and really try and start opposite Greg Rousseau. I don't think there's really, I don't know if AJ Epinesa is going to be the guy that starts. They're obviously going to use a heavy rotation regardless of really who starts at the edge each game. But again, I think Von Miller has a lot to prove, and especially to himself at this time in his career, 35 taking a pay cut. It's just very important for him to get out there and get some quality, confident reps in.
Yeah, to begin team drills today, it was Rousseau and Epinesa out there alongside one another. And I think that's what you'll see throughout at least the start of the regular season. Those two may be out there to start, but I think it will be kind of that three-man rotation, maybe Von Miller at the bottom of that rotation, and a lot expected out of Epinesa and Rousseau as well. Trying to figure out where I want to go here next. Let's talk about the return competition. I saw 3 players working on returns at the end of practice. Didn't get a great look at it at the beginning of practice. We had our photographer Mark Gutman on hand today, so check out the dailynewsonline.com for some of his great photos. I'll post those around to social media as well, also on the dailynewsonline.com. We mentioned AJ's story, also my takeaways from camp. A lot of the stuff we're talking about in today's episode in article form. You can check that all out on our website. And I was kind of instructing Mark, maybe not instructing, but just he's not at training camp very often, so just kind of giving him some tips on where to shoot and what to look for while they were going through kind of a walkthrough of their kickoff. I'll try to get a better look of that tomorrow. But at the end of practice, KJ Hamler, Daquan Hardy, and Andy Isabella working together with the Jugs machine, catching some extra returns. I think that this return competition might be down to those 3 players. I think it was maybe anticipated at the start of training camp that there might be some more names involved. I think I saw Darrington Evans at one point returning a kick, but I think those 3 are really the top 3 candidates to come away with either the kick return or punt return job for the Bills going into the regular season.
Yeah, that's kind of what we alluded to. You said it's Hardy, Hamler, Isabella, right? Correct. Just want to verify. That's what
Hardy, Isabella, and Hamler, correct.
Yeah. So yeah, those 3 guys. I mean, they all have the experience. They're all speedy. They're all quick. I feel like again the Bills, although like Deontay Hardy again, he broke that one last year, but they obviously want some more. I would say more consistent production from the return position. Obviously, with the new kickoff rule, there's even more pressure on those returners. So I think you want guys back there with experience, and it looks to me like you said, with the experience all 3 of these guys have, it's going to be an open battle, an open competition, and whoever takes advantage of those opportunities, whether it's training camp or preseason games, will likely win the job and earn a roster spot. Now, there's obviously more variables. If Daquan Hardy can perform at like I've said in the past, the backup nickel spot behind Teron Johnson, now that can lead to maybe putting him above a Isabella or Hamler, who might say, well, we really like Claypool at the 6th spot receiver. We don't want to keep 7. And why keep 7 receivers just for a returner? So that'll obviously play into it. What the positional versatility that these 3 have, and I think obviously Hardy has the most positional versatility because he can play defense as well. So that'll be interesting to look at. But yeah, definitely an open competition, and it's good to see there's only 3 guys because I think that should be. I think the more kind of dicey and tricky it gets. So for it to be 3 at day one, I think hopefully moving forward that's the case.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly strong day for Kaiir Elam today at training camp. I mentioned he was beaten for a touchdown. He also was called for a penalty on the same play that Chase Claypool came down a bit banged up. So not a great start for Elam. He's never really been a training camp hero per se. We remember back, I believe, his rookie year when they put the boxing gloves on him for holding. So this isn't necessarily the period where he's always shined. He's been more of a big playmaker during the regular season, coming away with big interceptions. But I think you're going to have to see more consistency from Kaiir Elam as this training camp goes. And maybe not a horrible start by any means for Elam, but definitely not a start that you're hoping for a player trying to assert himself in this number 3 cornerback role.
Yeah, and that would give me some major concern for the Bills' cornerback depth if Kaiir Elam cannot become a consistent force. Is that first man in kind of behind, Douglas and Benford. That I think that'd be a major concern for this Bills secondary, because who do you really count on? I know Jamarcus Ingram, but he really has not had much experience in this league. What can he be? And then also you look behind him, there's not really much. Maybe a Cam Lewis can show some versatility, but I see him more as a safety at this point, even like just a premier special teamer. So they really do need Elam. They're really counting on Elam to step up and become that third guy. And he's made some plays during the voluntary offseason program and mandatory mini camp where you thought, maybe there's a chance he could sneak in, but McDermott said he'll have some chance to work in with the ones during camp and get an opportunity, and we'll see what he does from here. I mean, it's a huge year for him. A first round pick in 2022. You feel like every year you go into camp, you get this build up, and he's yet to really put it together. So hopefully he can stack some days, build some confidence, and stop grabbing the jersey so much.
Yeah, going back to the receiver conversation, it's going to be interesting to see how this pecking order plays out. Is Khalil Shakir going to really lead the way in this wide receiver room? Will Keon Coleman be the top target in terms of wide receivers in that X role? Will Curtis Samuel lead the way? I think it's obviously going to be by committee, but if you judge just based off of day one of training camp, Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman out there with the ones plenty. Curtis Samuel mixing in a bit more with the twos, while it seems like Marquez Valdez-Scantling is the fourth wide receiver at this point in time, and perhaps that could change throughout the course of training camp. I mentioned how KJ Hamler came down with a big touchdown reception. Maybe he continues to stack the days. Maybe Chase Claypool rebounds from his nick during today's practice and continues to show out as he has throughout this offseason. But at this point, I think it's going to be Samuel, Shakir, Coleman, and then Marquez Valdez-Scantling maybe a bit outside in that top four for the Bills.
Yeah, how much did you see of Matt Collins today? Was he around much? Was he a guy that was contributing? Was he on special teams? Did you see anything with Mac?
Not a lot of special teams work today. On the field a bit was Hollins with the ones, with the twos, but not a lot of passes thrown his way. And I don't think you're going to see him heavily involved in this passing game this year in terms of a pass catcher. He might be on the field in terms of more of a blocking role for the running game and for his fellow wide receivers, but not a lot from Hollins in terms of his production on the field today. Maybe that continues to develop as training camp goes.
Yeah, he's definitely I saw some of the videos of Mac walking out. He didn't have his uniform on, got changed on the field. His hair is going all over the place. So he's definitely definitely can notice him when you're at camp. I'm sure a lot of the fans, probably some of them weren't even aware who he was, because it's hard to know all these players in the depth chart from top to bottom.
He walked
I believe we lost Alex here for a little bit. He is cut out of the building at St. John Fisher. So I am just going to let's look through some more takeaways here. Let's see what we got, if we can find anything else we haven't talked about with this team. He's still kind of trying to echo in here, but again, I don't think he's connecting. I hope he's aware. Send me a link. So I got to send him a link really quick. 1 second. Right here, right now, we're sending him a link. Send it to his email. Sorry about this, people. Technology, you know how it is.
Hair flowing.
He said hair flowing. Matt Collins does have the hair flowing, but yeah, they're a lot of good today. I think, especially from this Bills offense. I really like what I saw and read from this Bills offense. I think they're going to be a dynamic group, and I think it's going to be special to see what they can do. Again, Josh Allen, who's going to be his main target. I'm excited about Curtis Samuel and what they're going to try and do with him. I think he'll really be kind of that gadget guy. So now I'm alone, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to this Bills offense and this Bills defense as well. I think it's a great first day to have. And look, I mean, there's gonna be some bad days for the offense. There's gonna be days where Josh Allen struggles, but to start on a high note like this, again, no pads, so how much physicality is really being put into this? I don't know how much, but at the same time, as we get Alex back in here, but it says device is not connected. I can maybe try and add him to the stage. He's back. Potentially. He's loading.
Do you have me?
I have you.
All right, where were we?
We were talking about you were talking about Mac Hollins' flow.
Oh my God, he was walking through the tunnel today with that beautiful hair flowing through the breeze. Looked like Troy Polamalu reincarnate on the football field. I know Troy Polamalu is still alive, but with those bare feet, just
I
walking
think we lost him again.
through the tunnel. I think a lot of Bills fans.
I might remove him from the stage. So, okay, I removed him again just for audio purposes because I don't want the echo. Oh, he's back on this. You there?
I'm back once again. I pulled it up on my phone now. As you see, I got to change my display name if I'm able to. I don't know if I can do that here. Let's see.
Mafia Con was a good time though last weekend, and shout out to Mafia Con and all the people, Del Reed and WMI Heroes, the facility, and Punt raised a lot of money, and it was a sold out event, and I'm sure a lot of Bills Mafia had fun. So great event, and now we're back. So back to Mac Hollins in his flow.
All right, as I said, just great flow, walking through the tunnel, barefoot. I think a lot of fans were surprised to see. That's all.
All right, that's all. So what is next, Alex? What do you got? What's the next takeaway or conversation?
Just to wrap it up, the energy that we saw from the two new coordinators on the field today, Bobby Babich, Joe Brady. We'll hear from both of them by the end of the week. Brady tomorrow, Babich on Friday, so excited to hear that. But Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and the players just raving about it. I asked Josh Allen if hearing Babich on the other side just barking at the defense constantly helps him in terms of rising his compete level and just the energy out there in itself. And he says he and Babich go back a long time, and they even collaborate during the season, during practices, kind of bounce ideas off of each other. What did you see? What did I see? How can we improve? And I think that's a good dynamic and perhaps a bit rare between a quarterback and a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Babich. I hope to see him get play calling duties on week 1 of the preseason, see how they look. I really think it seemed to me just McDermott's demeanor today that I kind of changed my mind. I think they're probably leaning Babich at this point. I think McDermott's ready to kind of take some of the, again, because decision making in critical moments is huge, and I think that's the most important thing for a head coach first and foremost, especially a team like the Bills that are in these big moments year in, year out. So I think as a head coach, you want as much kind of stress off you, and calling a defense is pretty hard to do while being a head coach of a team. So props to McDermott for doing it for a season, but again, I think Babich has been in the system for a long time. So I really see him getting day one, calling the plays and day one of camp after kind of a lull in the between off-season programs, and now I think that's a good sign for Babich to really take the next step. And multiple players have said they love Babich. The defense really isn't too different. Terrell Bernard said that today. The defense was not too much different. Him and McDermott's is basically the same thing. So I think you got a lot of guys that support Babich, and on the other side of the ball with Brady. I mean, who wouldn't love working for an offensive coordinator that it's kind of like you said, the everybody eats mentality that gives really an opportunity to every guy. So I think both sides of the ball, fresh, new, youth, change, whatever way you want to put it. There might be some obstacles along the way, and it might not look great at times. But again, I think with youth change, like I said, there's definitely some opportunity for both to shine this year.
And last item of business, the offensive line looked as many of us expected it to start training camp. You had David Edwards, left guard, Connor McGovern at center, and the usual suspects elsewhere. Osiris Torrance at right guard, Spencer Brown at right tackle, Deion Dawkins, fresh off being named to the NFL's top 100 at left tackle. So I don't think you're going to see much surprise there, barring an injury. A lot of talk about Cedric Van Granger and and his future on the offensive line and whether or not he could edge in for a starting role. But I think they're pretty much set with their starting five at this point. And I said last order of business, but how about we go one more? Josh Allen was pronounced overrated by an anonymous NFL exec this offseason. Brandon Beane was asked about it today, and his response was simple yet very effective in saying, and I quote, "There are idiots everywhere." And AJ, you've worked in this business for a short time. I think you're starting to learn that with some of the feedback you get on social media, some of the phone calls we get at the Batavia Daily News. We love our readers. Just joking there, but yeah, I agree with his sentiment. I don't know how you could look at this player and say he's overrated. And with all the talk of him being overrated, perhaps Josh Allen a bit underrated at this point.
Yeah, definitely some. And again, he's a guy that's never been able to do it. So that's where kind of the criticism comes. He plays for the Bills, a franchise that's never won a Super Bowl. He's part now of the 13-second game and all the blunders that the Bills have experienced under the McDermott era, the choke jobs per se. So it really kind of makes it easy for, I mean, I'm shocked an executive would say that, because I think you watch Josh Allen and immediately you're like, this guy's, unbelievable, and he's one of a kind and one of the most probably unique specimens at the quarterback position of all time, again on a Hall of Fame trajectory. But it's good to see again Beane defend his guy, and that's the guy he drafted, that's the guy he bet on, that's the guy that that he got a lot of slander on for drafting back in 2018. A lot of Bills fans wanted Rosen. Darnold was another option. Mayfield. I think Allen was on the bottom of the list for many people. And so I think he's also got a little chip like, hey, you're still doubting him at this point of his career going into year 7 after all he's accomplished. It just seems to me a little crazy, and I'm sure Brandon Beane agrees.
And before we move on to talking about the future at training camp, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Forefathers Organics. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul, so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or you can call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. But AJ, as we look forward into day 2 and beyond, an off day on Saturday before returning on Sunday, what are you most looking forward to? What are some questions you had entering day 1 that you didn't really find any resolution on following the first couple of hours on the practice field?
Yeah, I still think it's I think receivers at this point for me, like, I don't know if I have like that many questions. I think we kind of have an idea, like you said, kind of who's going to be the cream of the crop there and who the Bills are going to kind of utilize the most. Again, it's the top 4 you mentioned earlier in the show. I'm not going to run through all the names, and then obviously Dalton, Kincaid. So I think there I'm kind of solidified in how I think that's going to go. Now, maybe I don't know how they're going to be exactly used, but in terms of usage and volume, I think a better understanding after today, just kind of clarifying what I've thought previously. But I think the safety position still gives me some question marks, because again, I think like Edwards, although he was hurt all offseason, based for the most part, the majority, I should say, I still think there's maybe an opportunity for him to work in a Cole Bishop, see if he can get any first team reps. And then I think the big thing is just that edge group, and what can those edge rushers continue to do? Can Solomon make a name for himself? Can Kingsley Jonathan kind of take advantage of an opportunity while he's had trouble in the past doing that? And then like a Russo Epinesa, obviously a Von Miller, the top 3. I want to see some. And when the pads get on, it'll be easier for those questions to be answered and see how they look. But going against 2, I'd say, good tackles in the NFL, in this league, the edge rushers in the safety position for me is the big thing. I think the play calling thing will just happen with time, and I think Matt Milano's Matt Milano. We'll see what he is, but again, that's I guess another question you could ask. At every level of the defense, there's some sort of kind of question moving forward.
So just to take you behind the curtain of my day, it was a great day. Woke up feeling great, drove to training camp. Beautiful day out here. My tan is starting to come in, as we mentioned during our previous podcast, and we get through our press availability. We make our way to the lunch room. Some tacos being served up, Taco Wednesday for the media. And as I finish writing my takeaway story in the cafeteria, I'm ready to walk back down to the car, pack some stuff up, and then come back out here and record the podcast for you. And it is absolutely torrential downpouring at St. John Fisher University. So in one sense, it was a really positive thing that the rain held off until the end of camp. But I was in a situation in the lunchroom where, if you're unfamiliar with St. John Fisher and the geography here, I guess I could have said landscape. You have the field where I am, and then to my left, far up a hill, is where we eat lunch. I guess it's not that far, but when it's raining cats and dogs and you have to walk not only back to the field, but probably double the distance all the way back to my car, I had to sit in the lunchroom for an extra about 15 minutes just for the rain to slow down. And then I took about the half-mile walk from the lunchroom to my car, and my clothes were completely drenched. Thankfully, I had a notebook. I was able to secure the hair.
Where's the umbrella? Where's the umbrella?
Well, that's the second part of the story. I was the most prepared I've ever been at training camp. There's been years where I forgot pens, I've forgotten phone chargers, I've forgotten everything under the sun. And today I remembered everything. I even had a rain jacket. But I checked the forecast before training camp. I looked up into the sky. I said, I'm not carrying this with me all the way to the field. I'm leaving this in the car. Left the raincoat and the umbrella in the car, and much to my chagrin, I regretted that decision about 2 hours later.
Live and learn.
Yeah, that's about all you can do in these situations. At least I didn't forget the pen or the phone charger this time. That would have been a bit worse.
Right, exactly. That would have been abysmal. That's the word, abysmal.
Yeah, completely abysmal. But as we round up the podcast here, right now, live Buffalo football talk. It's been another chock-full episode. A lot of information packed in here. AJ had to freelance a little bit while my equipment failed me momentarily, but I was able to get things back up and running. Do you have any final thoughts, AJ? Any final takeaways? Anything to elaborate on further from what we've discussed following day one of Bill's training camp?
Not much. I again appreciate everybody tuning in to right now, live Buffalo football talk. Again, please like, share, subscribe, comment. John Robert, thank you for the continuous support and always commenting and chiming in and giving your insight on our conversations. Greatly appreciated. But yeah, just continue to support us. We'll be bringing shows almost every day with camp now here and going into the season twice a week. So I'm looking forward to it. And, we're just going to continue to build this up and, keep talking Bills football.
And AJ, you'll be right here on Friday here at St. John Fisher University, kind of dual-wielding the coverage, you and I, for the Batavia Daily News and Livingston County News. Excited for that. Before we get out of here, what are you looking forward to most out of covering your first day of training camp? I know you've been here before, tweeting out for various networks. Cover One does a great job covering training camp as well. But to be on the sidelines, to be in the press availability, what are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, definitely something I've been dreaming of for quite some time now. So that's obviously the big thing will be probably like the surrealness of walking in there and stuff. So that'll be obviously cool. But yeah, just looking forward to maybe, seeing some things, learning more about the industry, learning about things I probably haven't seen before and whatnot, not just sitting in the fans section and tweeting out, all these countless different things. So I'm just looking forward to being there and really, being at a point where I thought I could be. So that's obviously the big thing.
My biggest memory from my first year covering full-time at training camp, it was Marcel Louis-Jacques' first year covering the Bills. He's since moved on covering the Miami Dolphins for ESPN. Me and him kind of parked at the same time in the parking lot, and we're walking in together, and he's asking me these questions like I'm some veteran reporter. Where do I go for this? What can we do here? And I was kind of too proud at the time to tell him, listen, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. You're asking the wrong guy. So I was trying to give him vague answers. And now look at him. He's on Around the Horn. He's a worldwide sensation. Right. So the journey to being a worldwide sensation, AJ, it starts at St. John Fisher University, and you'll be here on Friday. Really looking forward to that, and looking forward to keeping this thing going right here, right now, live Buffalo football talk. AJ, before we get out of here, can you go down to the brand tab and play our video for Forefathers Organics?
Yes, I can.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, big thank you to Forefathers Organics. Big thank you to all who have tuned in RHRN on this episode, and we will see you next time.
Peace out.